Told you so. Large institutions revising appreciation projections upward. That's what we're going to cover in this monthly market report. This is for you if you are a real estate agent, a financial advisor, or an attorney interested in market data to help you advise a client, or perhaps you are that potential buyer or seller looking for some direction. I'm Paulo Rodriguez. I've been a mortgage professional since 2005, and here is the market data that you need to make an informed buying or selling decision, or help your client do the same. I want to start this month by taking a quick look at the Case-Shiller 20 City Index as it breaks down various markets around the country in terms of appreciation and depreciation. Incredibly, Portland is the only market in the red, and not by much. Now, the reason I'm showing you this table is because some time ago I shared some projections from major institutions and I called them out for being incorrect and that they would end up revising their projections upward. Well, sure enough, that's what happened. Here's a breakdown of where each institution stood 2 months ago versus where they stand today in terms of overall appreciation for 2024. The middle column is what their original forecast was for 2024 as of November last year, and the right-hand column in bold is their current forecast. Look at Goldman Sachs and Zillow, two very well-known and reputable institutions with a lot of data, revising their forecast up over 3%. Also, the Mortgage Bankers Association, those are my people, not sure what happened there, but they revised up 3% as well. And even the National Association of Realtors made a notable adjustment. So what is behind these revisions, you might ask? Well, it's not only stubbornly low levels of inventory, but it's also mortgage rates and where they're going. Here's the trend right now. 3 or 4 months ago, they were at 8%. They're now at 7% or so, having dipped into the sixes. But where are they going to be a year from now or even 6 months from now is what's important. Now, this data here is about a month old, but we can see the mortgage rate was 6.92%. That's made up of two things. It's made up of the spread, which was at 2.9%, and the bottom number, that's the 10-year Treasury yield, which was at 4.02%. What's interesting for you to know is that the spread for the last 50 years has had an average of 1.7%, not 2.9%. So why is it so much higher at present? Well, let's first define what the spread is, and here's a good explanation from the Deputy Chief Economist at First American. The spread is not always consistent. It actually widens during periods of economic or geopolitical uncertainty, as has been the case in today's market. So in other words, during times of economic uncertainty and geopolitical uncertainty, the spread increases, and it actually started to increase at around about the same time that rates increased in 2022. But why? Well, it wasn't geopolitical because when we had the pandemic, the spread was normal. And then we went straight into the Ukraine situation and the spread was still normal. Remember the joke that Vladimir Putin cured COVID because suddenly we stopped talking about COVID and only Ukraine? You have to love the mainstream media. They'll only talk about the most negative thing they can get their dirty little paws on. But I digress. The reason for having a higher spread today is not geopolitical, it's economic uncertainty related specifically to inflation, which will most definitely moderate this year. We don't even need the Treasury yield to come down. All we need is the spread to return to its 50-year average, and we will have rates that are 1% lower than what they are today. That would put us into the fives. And remember what I've said over the last few months about rates getting into the fives? It would be like Black Friday in real estate. But if inflation expectations moderate, that will also bring the Treasury yield down with it, which is also a reason that rates will come down. The chief economist at First American put it this way. A primary driver of the increase in yield over 2023 was inflation expectations. So the higher the current rate of inflation, and more importantly, the higher the expected future rates of inflation, the higher the yield on the 10-year as investors demand to be compensated for that inflation risk into the future. Now, let's shift a little bit and discuss how lower rates will affect the market. Obviously, more buyers will be priced into the market by better levels of affordability, as well as general motivation spurred on by lower rates. But you may recall that last month I talked about sellers being held hostage by the current rate environment. In other words, the rate lock-in effect, meaning homeowners are stuck in their house because they have a 3 or 4% mortgage rate and they don't want to swap that for a 7% rate on a new house. The rate lock-in effect will ease modestly this year as mortgage rates come down, which will spur lots of activity. Take a look at this quote from the chief economist at First American. There is reason to believe that the rate lock-in effect will ease modestly this year as mortgage rates come down. And you can only imagine if they got below 6, then even more people would be again in the money and homeowners will become less anchored to that low rate that they got a few years ago. What he's talking about there is that the lock-in effect will ease as we go into this year as mortgage rates continue to come down. And here is a quote from the chief economist at Fannie Mae. We anticipate that after the past several years of extreme volatility in interest rates, the 30-year fixed rate mortgage rate will continue to moderate over the course of 2024, moving toward a rate below 6% by year end. So in closing, we're going to have a great first half of the year. I think we're going to have a great buying season, and I think we're going to gain momentum as the year goes on, as rates continue to fall. Now, I have to admit that it doesn't make me comfortable that everyone is saying the same thing about rates. History has taught me that the masses are never right when it comes to the financial markets. I'm not a contrarian for the sake of being one, but I am lately questioning why everyone is expressing the same opinion about where rates are going, and that gives me pause. It makes me think there's a catch. And I think that the catch is that while rates will fall as projected, it's going to take longer than we think. And just this week, in the middle of February, when I'm recording this, we had consumer price index and producer price index readings come in hotter than expected. The CPI and the PPI are two indices that we use to gauge inflation. And the fact that they came in higher than expected means that inflation is proving to be stubborn. This is also supported by Fed Chairman Powell signaling to the markets in this last press conference that a March rate cut is unlikely. That probably implies that the rates will stay at these levels for longer than we've been thinking. However, I'm not taking back anything that I have said previously. I'm still calling for 30-year fixed mortgage rates to be below 6 by year end. That is the most obvious destination that the market will go to, and the financial markets ultimately go to the most obvious destination. But more often than not, they will take the least obvious path to that destination. That's a wrap for the March Market Report. I appreciate you listening in. Forward, subscribe, share. I'll be back next month. But before you go, if you're looking to purchase or refinance or know someone that is and would like a no-cost consultation with me personally, feel free to reach out and I'd be happy to analyze if your debt is structured in the most optimal way or if there's room for improvement. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.